And we're back with part 2, or actually this time part 3 of the Comics Online podcast video edition. Season 15, episode 7. As always, I'm your host, Kevin Ghostwan, and with me, as always these days, my co-host, Troy David Phillips here.
Yeah, wow. That's, as always, that's like, this is getting to be a thing.
It is a thing, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm hoping that that my existing fans are enjoying all of this, all these changes. This is, as always, I mean, we've been doing this for over 6 years now, or I have. It's an evolving thing and a changing thing, and as I mentioned earlier, we're getting a little bit of attention this episode as Giovanni Giorgio and Lax Dude of Pod Gods. We'll check that out there. Those for those of you listening to the audio thing, I'm putting up their logo to the screen. But they're going to be giving us their rundown, and kind of I've been wanting that, not necessarily from them. I know that Lax Dude hates me, and whatever. He's kind of has that sort of thing going on all the time. But Gio, I really respect his opinion because he is their podcast Podgons touts them as podcast experts. Giovanni is a podcast expert. He works with Adam Carolla on those podcasts, on his ton of those, and so and then he's got a ton of his own.
Hey, Kevin, look, you've got
brownies.
You got a dessert.
Hey, look, podcast viewers. Who do we have here? One of our very favorites.
Indeed. If you were to come to the Bungalow Alehouse...
By the way, come to the Bungalow.
Yes, come to the Bungalow Alehouse here in Woodbridge, Virginia. Amanda has been one of our regular waitresses. Lovely young woman that she is. Also very helpful, very knowledgeable about the menu, the drink selections. Good with a suggestion if you're not quite sure what you're in the mood for. Food comes out in a timely fashion. Can't sing her praises highly enough. You should come out here and, you know what? Put my words to the test. Don't just take my word for it. Come out here and ask for Amanda. Sit in her section, and she will take care of you.
It's true. True story.
Indeed. And obviously the food here is good because, look, she's having the brownie sundae. The brownie sundae, I mean, this thing is delectable. I've actually had it myself several times. Earlier tonight, I had the rack and wings. So it's a half rack of ribs and half dozen wings, and I am quite full of food, so I'm skipping dessert.
My grumpy, much like the new 52, I look at that rack and wings. You say you got a half a rack and you got 6 wings. To me, wings are a cheap food. And so I'm like, all right, so that's $19, but for $20 you can just get a full rack. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just get a full rack? Because I'm a fan of the full rack, let me tell you. Oh, yeah. Speaking of sexism...
I try not to.
I want to soon. Am I running over something you wanted to go over?
No. But I was going to say, since our podcast is being reviewed, and since we often get onto topics comic related, I thought, well, why not give our reviewers something that they can review us on?
Okay.
Let's pick a comic topic and talk this thing through.
Okay. Well, let me go through. I want to just throw out some feelers at this moment. So I've got a couple of things for our watchers and our listeners to think about and get back to us. Please, for goodness sake, tweet us on Twitter, hit us up on Facebook, or email us at podcast@comicsonline.com, and let us know what you think about a couple of things. All right, here are the 2 things. Whatever you're passionate about, either way, we want to know what you think. Number 1, I'm thinking about not continuing the audio version of this unless we have an audio-only interview or an audio-only geek discussion. These things that we do weekly with Flashback Comics, I'm thinking about just kind of leaving those in the video, in the realm of video, on YouTube and on Blip TV, and just kind of not bothering with the audio, because I'm just not so sure as anybody cares anymore.
Well, let me toss this out here, Kevin, for weighing in my 2 cents, if I may.
Yeah.
I find that the audio version of the podcast, and not just this one, but audio versions in general, for those opportunities when you can't watch a video, the audio only segment might be something that you can listen to.
Yeah.
When you don't have the ability to watch.
That's true.
Like, for example, driving to work. If you're a regular commuter in the Washington metropolitan area, you might be driving along listening to the podcast instead of listening to music or listening to talk radio, but you don't really want to be watching the video while you're driving. That would be bad.
But if it's the same show, one could ostensibly go and just put the YouTube or the Blip TV video on your phone, and then just turn it over and not be looking at it, but you're just listening to the same audio you would be listening to off of iTunes. And that's my concern. I'm like, am I overdoing it? Do people really care about having iTunes anymore? Are they just streaming it, or are they actually downloading it and listening to it on the plane, or listening to it where they've got crappy internet?
Well, the other thing to consider with the audio version is there will be things in the audio version that you'll say, whereas in the video version, you'll be relying on the visual representation. If I'm listening without watching, then I'd actually be more reliant on you speaking out.
Well, and that's the whole thing. What I'm saying, because really, when it comes to that, I'm saying, I'm asking. When it comes to these weekly shows that we've been doing video-wise, and there's plenty of times where we're just like, hey, look at this art, and we're showing the artwork or the cover of the comic book to the viewer, and to those people listening, they're just kind of waiting for us to get around to describing it. And to be fair, waiting around for Troy to start describing it, because I have been a mess lately when it comes to describing comics, and I hope to get better at that.
Yeah, well, reading them will be a great big step forward.
I have been reading a few things. I've been reading some Avengers titles. I've been trying to catch up.
Well,
and I have made a little, some strides, just not as much as I would like.
For example, have you been following along with the incursions in the pages of New Avengers? I noticed that you were a little surprised to see Hyperion in the pages of the Avengers.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that Avengers World is something that you've fallen well behind.
Actually,
on.
I read about 4 of those in a row recently, and I did notice that he was in there, but I wasn't saying, oh my gosh, I'm surprised that he's there, but I'm like, okay, I've seen him as like a bit part in a couple of comics, but like, when did he come back? What's the deal with that? And of course, Troy described it to me. Oh, this is an alternate reality version of Hyperion, which the 616 version, I believe, died a long time ago. Or the 616 version, was there ever a 616 version? Was it always an alternate version?
The 616 version, truthfully, that would be the villainous Hyperion, the Squadron Sinister Hyperion.
Okay.
The version from 7186 or whatever the number was, the Squadron Supreme Earth.
Right.
The one
that we all know as that's my Hyperion, the Squadron Supreme version.
And then there's the J. Michael Straczynski reimagining of Hyperion.
Right, like the Ultimate Universe.
Supreme Power.
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
But it felt like
there was a crossover with the Ultimate Universe, yes. And then there is the version of Hyperion. It was the criminal Hyperion.
Another criminal
in the
Hyperion.
Pages of Exiles.
What was who was the one that was in Defenders, like in the 70s or early 80s?
That was the Squadron Sinister Hyperion.
But he like reformed, or maybe he was just pretending to be a good guy?
No. We've seen both in the Defenders.
Okay.
The Defenders fought the Squadron Sinister.
Okay.
And then many issues later, 1, 11, 12, 13, right in that ballpark.
Excellent.
We saw the Squadron Supreme, including new members, Nuke, Power Princess, Arcana Jones, filling out the team and making it much more of a pastiche of the Justice League.
And these are the folks who would come back later, and maybe not these exact characters, but these the analogs to these characters were the ones that would populate the Squadron Supreme 12-issue limited series.
Yeah, the Marc Grunwald series.
Marc Grunwald.
That was actually the Squadron Supreme.
Yeah.
Such as we had seen in the pages of the Avengers and the Defenders.
Yeah.
And that squadron, we got to actually see their Earth, live on their Earth with them for 12 issues. Each issue encompassing 1 month of real time for them. So the 12 issues were an entire year. That entire event laid itself out over the course of the year and saw characters actually die.
Yeah.
Saw some changes for the Squadron Supreme universe.
Who was the guy, like Barbed Wire or Ripline?
Haywire.
Haywire. That guy died.
No. Haywire survived.
Oh, he was the guy who survived. Never mind. Just kidding.
Quagmire, on the other hand, the one
Quagmire,
with the
yeah.
the tar-like Dark Force,
Right.
he died. Except he didn't actually die. He got sucked into his Dark Force dimension.
Did he come back later?
And spewed back out in the pages of Quasar, I believe, which was also a Marc Grunwald written book.
And Quasar is where Starbrand came back for the first time.
The Starbrand also came back. The Squadron Supreme found a home in the pages of Quasar. We also saw, during Marc Grunwald's tenure on Quasar, we took a 4-issue trip to the Stranger's World where we saw the return of a lot of Marvel B-list characters.
And for some reason, I apparently love the B-list characters. Well, I mean, okay, if I'm saying Defenders, yeah, I love the B-list characters.
Once upon a time, the Defenders actually follow the formula of success of the Avengers. It was 3 A-list characters.
Sure.
The Hulk, the Submariner, Doctor Strange, brought together in an ensemble team.
And Silver Surfer.
Well, Silver Surfer
came on later.
Yep. He wasn't in the initial story arc, but he did come. Here's the thing.
I love Defenders back in the day.
The first Defenders story actually begins in Doctor Strange 183. Moves into Submariner 22 and Incredible Hulk 126.
Now, 183, we're talking the original Doctor Strange that spun out of what? Strange Tales?
Yes.
Okay.
183 was the end of the Doctor Strange series.
Oh, okay. And then he came back in the early to mid 70s.
Well, they did relaunch the book from Marvel. I want to say it was Marvel Premiere.
Is that what it was?
I believe it was.
Because I
Premiere.
remember having a handful where they were like in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Right.
And I was a little kid, and this was probably like 79, 80. When I got, and those were some of my earliest comics.
Well, they did relaunch the series yet again. Doctor Strange, one of the few characters from the heyday of Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, whereas the majority of those Marvel characters, like the Fantastic Four, persisted into constant publication. Doctor Strange is one of those characters that just couldn't seem to sustain a book indefinitely.
Isn't that funny?
It is, actually. Yeah. It is. The Hulk also...
I blame Kevin Nolan in Strange Tales when it was Doctor Strange and Cloak and Dagger. Kevin Nolan.
No,
not a great artist.
Not Kevin
Not
Nolan's
a fan.
fault. I actually like the work of Kevin
Everybody
Nolan.
loves him but me. I don't like his pointy noses and all the faces look the same. Now, I'm sure he's a great artist in reality, but subjectively, my taste I find him distasteful. His art. Obviously, I got to be clear about that.
Yeah, Kevin Nolan is going to punch you in the eye. We're all getting punched in the eye.
And Keith Giffen, because I was talking trash about, not really, the same sort of trash where I'm like, I don't love his art.
Keith Giffen was the artist on the Great Darkness saga in the Legion of Superheroes. It was fantastic.
And
Written by Paul Levitz, inked by Larry Malstedt. It was fantastic.
Paul Levitz. You mean the what is he to DC now? Isn't he like the
executive vice president,
super coordinator of all things?
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, pay attention to what they're doing at Marvel in the live action category. Just saying.
Actually, I don't think he has a lot of control over the cinematic.
Well, maybe he ought
aspect.
to.
Well, maybe they should give control to him.
Right? Because he used to write comics that Troy likes, and if Troy likes them, they might even be good.
They are extremely good.
He likes New 52, so
I like a lot of the New 52. I mean, I will be completely honest, not every book in the New 52 has appealed to me.
Yeah.
I did not read the entirety of the product line when it launched. I don't read the entirety of the product line now. But, you know what? I'm invested in Superman, the character. Whether or not I liked New 52 as a concept.
I really disliked the New 52 version of Superman. It made sense, but to have him, when he first comes in that JLA and he's all frail and quirky and weird, it made sense. Well, but I didn't love it. It was like, oh, this is not the Superman I know. Go away, weird guy.
Well, understand that when he was introduced in the JLA, he wasn't frail and weak. I mean,
was it action or something? Which one was he frail and? He wasn't weak. He was just
you're
skinny.
Thinking of Flashpoint.
Was it Flash? No,
yes.
I barely read. I read one issue of Flashpoint.
Because he had been imprisoned with no direct sunlight, and that was why he was thin and frail. In the pages of Justice League,
I just thought
he was actually rather robust.
I thought it was one of those things where it was like the reason why he was thin. It's like, oh, he's Superman. He gets his power not from flexing his muscles, but from the sunlight. So he doesn't need big muscles, and that was the reason he was all.
There have been. Now we're skipping around really all over the place here. We're,
Sorry,
we're staying on topic here is a challenge.
Hey, if this is the first time you've listened to the Comics Online podcast, we're sorry. I'll always say that. That's what the answer usually. That's what that follow on. So please feel free to say that next time.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
I apologize for Kevin here.
Yeah.
So
please go on.
Superman has been depicted as both rather athletically buff and somewhat more slender. And a lot of that has to do with the artist's perception of where Superman's great strength derives from. I personally like the John Byrne version where he's athletically buff, but I also like Gary Frank's depiction of Superman where he more resembles Christopher Reeve, who is quite athletic, but not of Arnold Schwarzenegger proportions.
I like the Lisa Frank version where he's covered in rainbows.
This guy.
That's a Trapper Keeper joke. Bringing it back to the 80s.
Yes, indeed. Now, as I was saying with the rest of New 52, regardless whether or not I liked the direction of the universe, the multiverse overall, this is where the characters were. I wanted to persist with Green Lantern. I wanted to persist with The Flash. Like I said, I was invested in Superman and Wonder Woman. I wanted to see what was going on with the Legion of Superheroes, with the Teen Titans. I wanted to see the formation of the Justice League. If Martian Manhunter is no longer on the team, then where is the Martian Manhunter? What's he doing? Oh, I have to read Stormwatch. Okay. What's up with the Red Lanterns? But then there were books that I did not read. I did not read Firestorm. I did not read the Blue Beetle series. I didn't read Grifter. I didn't read Voodoo. I didn't read Men of War. I didn't read the Black Hawk series. I initially was not reading Birds of Prey, but I came back around to Birds of Prey. There were one or two other books that I wasn't reading initially, but I swung around to.
No Gail Simone, and we riot.
Well, there might be rioting.
I'm just saying I will riot because no Gail Simone. Sorry, no Birds of Prey. Sorry, DC. And I know Gail Simone has said, hey, it's fine, everything's fine, don't worry about it. But I'm like, I'm honestly just not interested.
She's going to give you some Secret Six. Can you just be happy with that?
She's a great writer and just seems to be an all-around wonderful person.
Well, then why aren't you reading her Red Sonja?
I'm not interested in Red Sonja. The character doesn't appeal to me. Although, then
maybe
again,
the character would appeal to you when it's written by Gail Simone.
It might be. I gotta catch up on my favorites first. Once I'm all caught up on my favorites, I will go into new realms because I don't have that kind of. I know Troy jokes around about how you make all kinds of money. I also have a kid and a wife. Do you know what this means? That means I don't have a lot of money.
I have a kid, and I have a wife. And
I have 2 kids and a wife, if you want to go that direction.
Well, I stopped with one.
No, yeah. I love both of my children. They're both wonderful human beings. However, they're both at the difficult end of the spectrum. 2.5 and 19 are classically not the easiest to deal with ages, by the way. I don't know if you know about this, but it's true.
Yes, I do. I've dealt with Both of those,
Yeah.
once each.
Yeah, exactly. With the same kid. But anyway, gosh, what was it? Oh, I was going earlier. Look, I'm sorry. Go ahead with
No. So now we were coming back from New 52. I don't know how we got on the New 52.
We always get on to the New 52 for some reason.
That was
We
you.
need to cut it out. It's my fault. It totally
Well,
is.
it really is. I mean, honestly, I think you just need to read what's there.
I will. Here's my
just-
plan.
and just
With regard to New 52, here's my plan. Once I'm caught up on my Marvel stuff, I'm going to go and start into Bat books, and then branch out into those secondary Bat books like Birds of Prey, and what do you call Secret Six, Sinister Six, Sinister Six.
Sinister Six. Those were Spider-Man villains.
Oh man. Anyway, we're gonna go into them too. Damn it, if they have a comic of their own. So, and then from there, I will go into Green Lantern, both the original and the core. Probably not Red Lantern or whatever else is going on. But Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, I will read those. Then I will catch up on also some additional fun Vertigo and some other like Image stuff, and then I will start going into the things that I'm interested in DC wise.
Half a mo.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Green Lantern.
All right.
Green Lantern is currently in a story arc called Godhead. Godhead involves the new
I
gods.
knew her. Speaking of sexism, go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Godhead involves the new gods and the various Green Lantern Corps, the other Spectrum Corps as well, and takes us into the pages of Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern New Guardians, Red Lantern, and Infinity Man and the Forever People. So Red Lantern is actually an integral book in the overall Green Lantern
Careful, your
arc.
gesturing might get right into this.
I have an eye on the brownie. I will
right.
respect the brownie.
I appreciate it.
You should respect the brownie by eating it faster.
All right.
It's melting.
I know.
What a world. What a world.
What a world.
So
My daughter loves that movie. My son loved it when he was a kid, and and Coraline loves it too.
well, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Green Lantern, of course, centers on Hal Jordan. Green Lantern Corps seems mostly to center on John Stewart. Green Lantern New Guardians centers on Kyle Rayner, and Red Lanterns centers on Guy Gardner.
Kyle is my favorite, honestly.
Well, then you need to be checking out the New Guardians series.
Let me put it this way. Before Hal came back, Kyle was my favorite. I think they kind of ruined the Kyle character since then, and even before New 52, I wasn't loving the way they were treating the Kyle's character. Much like, when I'm not saying that there's a spoiler coming, but Stephanie Brown, when she went away, like, that was weird. Like, it was a great character, loved her. All of a sudden gone, eventually came back, and then her character was just not good anymore. Also with Tim Drake. Tim Drake, my favorite Robin. Love Nightwing, don't get me wrong, but as far as a character who is actively Robin, Tim Drake is my Robin.
Tim Drake was a great character.
But he, even before New 52, he started eating shit, frankly. As far as being a likable, a wonderful character.
Well, what can I tell you? A character can't remain static forever. And no, I do not always like the changes that come. Truth to be told, there are a lot of changes that I don't like. I talked about being emotionally invested in a character like Superman. It's not to say that I've liked every single Superman story that's come down the pike. To be completely truthful, I didn't necessarily like every single John Byrne story, but I liked more of them than not.
What's your favorite? Favorite Superman story?
My favorite Superman story? Oh, my God.
I'll tell you mine. My favorite Superman story is not a Superman story. It's Generations. The Superman, Batman, ongoing generation thing.
Yeah.
It's John Byrne, written and drawn by John Byrne. Loved it. I loved the first one, loved the second one. Might have loved the third one. I honestly don't remember it that well. But those first two I read over and over. Like, I don't reread anything.
In no particular order, I was a big fan. Well, you know, yeah, again, in no particular order. Alan Moore, The Man Who Has Everything. It's a standalone Superman story. This is fantastic. I very much like John Byrne's Superman. The compositing, it's John Byrne and Paul Levitz. It's Superman, Action Comics, and Legion of Superheroes. So it's a 4-part story. It crosses over between 3 titles.
And it was called what?
The story, the title of the story arc eludes me at the moment, but it dealt with the parallel universe Superboy. It sort of put the context of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes with the post-Crisis on Infinite Earths continuity.
Oh.
So we got to see Superboy.
When was this?
In the 1980s, 1987, 1988.
Okay, so this is post Man of Steel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Before he left the book, I want to say it's Legion of Superheroes 37, Superman number 8. I don't remember the Action Comics number off the top of my head, and it ends with Legion of Superheroes number 38.
All right. Might have to check it out at some point.
You absolutely should. Of course, you know, you're hunting back issues at this point now.
I'm just going to go over to your house. Because you've got them, and you'd be able to point, oh, look, here they are.
Yeah, well, I could find them in fairly short order, because
Exactly.
I keep my comics in alphabetical order. Numerical by volume.
Like you would.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's the only way to do it, really. I mean, you know, that's how I collect. 23,000 comics, 95 long boxes and counting. Really, there's only one way to keep this collection and my sanity at the same time. Alphabetization is a big key.
And how often do you go and refile your new stuff?
Well, that is dependent on my spare time. And
About how often, though?
Once every few months.
Okay. So you get about a short box or two, and then
and then start on that process. If I've done anything to accumulate comics faster, like, you know, if I bought a long box of cheap comics somewhere, well, then I may fall behind the 8 ball. But,
so when I do that, and I've certainly done that before. In fact, I've still got a couple of short boxes that I bought years ago that I haven't gotten around to reading, and I just keep them as a separate collection where it's like, all right, here's some unread stuff. This is unread, and I'll write on the box, unread, and you know, and they don't get filed until I've read them.
I generally take those types of projects and I try to break them into smaller segments.
Well, yeah, me too. But you know, and of course, and if I can get a good chunk of them, I'm going to take that chunk and I'm going to put them away. But you know, while I have some that are unread, they're never going to go into the main collection, the main alphabetized collection until I've read them. Well, otherwise I'll never find them.
Well, see here, and that's why I'm big on alphabetization.
Well, otherwise I won't remember them. Let me put it that way.
Oh, well,
I won't remember, like, oh yeah, I bought this, whatever it is.
No, see, there's a key difference between you and I.
Key difference is what?
Well, I will read and reread, and I will go back to my back issues fairly frequently, time permitting.
Okay.
And pull something out. You know, maybe I'll just do a quick refresh. You know, I need to yank out a couple of issues of Avengers just to refresh myself on some key details. I don't need to studiously reread the entire thing, but I might be drawn to pulling out Werewolf by Night and just rereading the Dr. Glitter Knight issues, or pulling out Master of Kung Fu and rereading the entire Paul Gulacy run, you know, just for the art and the Doug Mensch writing, you know, which is incredible.
Werewolf by Night, Marv Wolfman?
Yeah.
I do know some things. I just don't remember as much as I have once known.
Yeah, well, but the more you read, the more you retain. Or at least that's been my conventional wisdom.
Now, here's another thing. I'm seriously concerned with myself that I am, like, got some sort of mental problem anymore where I am not retaining to the degree that I once did. Because seriously, I would be able to pop issue numbers off like you are, like you always do, with similar frequency, similar accuracy. And these days, I'm just like, And it started out being something where I'm thinking, oh, you know, I've got some sort of nominal aphasia or whatever where I can't remember names. Nominal aphasia is a word that means that I can't remember the names of words. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, that's where it started. But I'm honestly worried about myself, thinking, oh my God, am I starting to get
When I find myself, I can't speak to that. I'm not a medical professional, but when I find myself in a similar situation, I just thought you had some. You could, you know, mentally, you could use your powers. Use your powers on me. Well, and here's what I do: I read more.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him. She got powers.
I mean, a lot of times, like, you know,
making us buy dessert. Those are her powers.
Yeah, think to yourself. You're behind. You need to get caught up. So what are you doing? You're reading faster, and you're not retaining what you're reading because you're trying to blast through a stack of 30 comics.
But, like, for example, like, I couldn't remember individual X-Men issues from. Keep in mind, this is like 20 and 30 years ago. I couldn't remember, but I used to always remember. Oh yeah, X-Men number blah 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 blah, whatever it was. And today, you know, I'm like, oh, which one was that? Which one was Colin Gath? 191? I can't remember.
Yeah, he got that one right.
Yeah, that was the one. And then there was a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants in 175.
No.
180.
Oh, what you mean where they flash froze Colossus?
Yeah, where it's
177, 178.
Where it's Avalanche and Pyro and Mystique and
they flash froze Colossus. I mean, unless you're talking about Days of Future Past.
No.
Yeah, because that's 141, 142.
Right. Those are Of course it is. And 140 is when they lost Ilyana.
No, that's 160. Yes.
That's what I meant to say. See, that's my problem. I can't remember this. And you might laugh. Those of you who are not regular, comics serious types, comics nerds rather than comics geeks. Nerds being people who are students of rather than geeks being fans of. And you can be both, or you can be either.
Is that what?
That's my definition. That is my definition. It is supported by some, and people who have domains like Nerdist.com. Chris Hardwick, he watches the show, I'm sure.
Here's the thing. And let me just say this.
We'll say the opposite because that serves their domain. That serves their brand.
Here's the thing. Nerd, geek,
you don't like
dweeb,
them. You don't
dork.
like them.
These are all names that were applied hatefully, and I see no reason to own them now.
But you always call me Cracker when I show up.
That is so not true.
He does not do that.
I call him Frogger.
I'm not sure what that means. Oh, yeah. Oh, because the Frenchness, right.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this recently and then realizing, while I do retain the French name and, I learned French because of the French name and all that, the amount of French that I actually have is probably very, very small.
So you parlez-vous français?
Enough to get by.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a song by deceased singer-songwriter Warren Zevon, Laissez-moi tranquille. I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly because I don't speak French. My French is atrocious. It is, however, a song on his CD album, My Ride Is Here. Look that up. He sings it in French. Warren Zevon's French is a little bit better than mine.
But not great?
Well, it's not great, but it is hysterical.
Okay.
You absolutely need to listen to this. I'll play it for you sometime.
All right. Maybe we'll use that to play this episode out if I can find it.
Yeah, I think you can. If not, I will email it. I'll email you a copy.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about this is going to be the audio version of this episode is going to be long, so tuck in, folks. I think
strap in. The phrase is strap in.
That too. Tuck in.
Tuck and roll.
Oh, right.
When I push you out of the car, tuck and roll.
Right.
But if you were strapped in, I wouldn't be able to push you out of the car.
Fair enough. So I was thinking about, and I might not actually do this, I was thinking about going and grabbing the audio from my interview with Greg Nicotero, the executive producer, showrunner and makeup extraordinaire from The Walking Dead. So I might put this at the end of this episode, not in the audio version, or it might go next week. But we have that to look forward to because hey, we're in with The Walking Dead season 5, episode 2, as I said earlier, was just amazing.
So, but like I was saying earlier,
Sorry.
and again, we're all over the place here. We can't stay on topic to save our souls.
This is how. If this is the first time you've listened to the Comics Online podcast, we're sorry. All right, got him going.
Yep, see, he got me going here, but I'm going to try to keep Kevin on a path here. It may not be very straight, it may not be very narrow,
I tried to
but it
pull
will
him
be a
off
path.
of comics, and he's like, no, back to comics.
Yeah, back to comics, back to comics.
It's in the name, he says.
Well, it is, it very much. I'm holding the microphone that has the comics portion out front. I mean, it's what I know, it's what I do. I work in a comic book store, I read comics, I read books about comics.
True story.
Yeah, I love everything about them. That is, I'm not a geek, not a nerd. I am an enthusiast.
An enthusiast, but see, you are not only an enthusiast, not only a fan, but also a student of, and that's where I say that the nerd version. I'm saying you are a student of. You.
Well, sure.
But
it's. Yeah, we can stop calling people science nerds now because that's actually kind of a spiteful name.
That's unnecessary.
They're science students.
If you are, that's because it's science. So that's
it's like in other forms of collectability. People who build ships in a bottle, they are model builders. They're not ship nerds. People, stamp collectors are collectors. Sports fans are fans. Comic collectors, comic fans. We're as much collectors and fans as any other fan or collector. And it's time to stop using these spiteful, mean names. People used to, kids got swirlies. They got stuffed in their lockers. They got made fun of by the jocks and the preppy kids and what have you. Those times are over now.
But they're not. And here's the problem. Here's the problem right now. And this is where I wanted to go with this. And this is kind of a teaser into something that I want to go into on another episode because it's going to be no. Because I want to not only have us think about this, but also throw this out to our audience and have them go and hopefully come back to us with it. But there's this thing going on called Gamergate, and basically, ultimately, an otherwise mild argument turned into something completely awful, And yes, there was a right and wrong side to the argument, but it wasn't a life and death sort of thing. Well, it turned into a death threat sort of thing, and basically it goes around, and I'll throw a link into the notes of this, but basically it goes into just sexism in the gaming industry and how women. Not just women within the games, I'm not talking about Lara Croft and and that sort of thing, or just rando NPCs that are brutally beaten, which that's kind of a creepy thing that people are realizing. Oh, maybe that's the objectification and the awful violence toward women in games. They're like, wait a minute, we're trying to be an enlightened society nowadays. Maybe that's not such a good idea. But I'm interested in hearing what our fans think about all of that. And
couple of quick points.
Yeah.
Okay. One, thank you for the clarification. You were talking about the gaming industry. Bear in mind, is that video games, tabletop role-playing games?
We're talking basically the video gaming industry.
And that is kind of important. I mean, Gamergate, that could have been some scandal involving Dungeons and Dragons or Vampire the Masquerade.
Well, right, but there is quite a bit of crossover with video gamers.
Sure.
Most video gamers are going to be into some sort of tabletop or role-playing.
Funny thing, we talk about the objectification and brutal violence against women. So is it objectifying and glorifying violence when I'm playing Mortal Kombat and Scorpion is beating Princess Katana?
I think it's quite. I think there's a difference between that and there's a big. Now the big Gamergate thing is not when the important in my mind. Sorry. the important part about that is it went off and attacked three women in real life and went after them.
Yeah, that's inexcusable.
That's inexcusable. And you know, the other stuff is inexcusable, but in a milder fashion, if that makes any sense. Like, oh, it's like you know, people who are like gonna go and say racist comments but never do anything about it. It's like, oh well, they're just assholes, but they're just assholes. Whereas, you know, somebody who's gonna go and do something about it, well, they're assholes, and whoa, let's call the fucking police.
Yeah, they've taken it to a dangerous level.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, again, those points of clarification that's nice to have.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a point, you know, that's. Yeah, bear in mind, our podcast is being reviewed, so you know, I would like our reviewers to not come back and say, "Well, Kevin raised some points but didn't clarify them very well." Let's clarify those points. Let's get ahead of this game.
Okay.
I want a good review coming out of this.
I do, and you know what? And here's the thing: I just want to throw a little bit of teasers out because I don't have all the information right now, and going and being thorough. Right now, today, I don't feel like I'm gonna do a good job of it, but
so that's our challenge then. When we do this again next week,
we're gonna come back. Well,
we're gonna come back to some of these points, and we'll have had time to research.
I'm gonna go. I had an invitation for tomorrow to do a Skype interview, and I don't know how I'm gonna work this into my evening, but maybe do it later at night. Do a Skype interview with John St. John, who, as everybody knows, is the voice actor who plays Duke Nukem. And the Duke Nukem game, you know, whether it's the original up to or what's it called, the new one?
I don't even
Forever,
remember.
not Infinity. Duke Nukem Forever. It's a very sexist game. I mean, it's built to be that. And you know, my actual real life friend John St. John, it plays the voice, plays that character who is like, you know, hey baby, you know, everybody, you know, let's do naughty things, and
do you remember on
I'm not doing it right, but you know what I'm saying.
Threshold Entertainment's website.
Okay.
I used to be a regular there, particularly for the Mortal Kombat discussion boards.
Okay.
But there was a whole page. It was Duke Nukem, and it was like, tell it to Duke. It was like, dear Duke Nukem, my girlfriend just left me. Or, you know, how can I win friends and influence people? Or, yeah, it was like Dear Abby, only for Duke Nukem.
But he'll say some super testosterone filled
replies. Of course.
And that's what the character is supposed to be.
Yeah, you know, it was funny, and and owned that.
Which is why I want to talk to John and say, okay, so I realize that you and Duke are two different entities. He's fake, you're real. What do you think, and what do you think your fans are going to say about this issue, you know, or about this set? Because it's not just one issue; it's a set of issues.
Well, you know, and a thing, and it is a thing. Having this discussion with somebody else in the comic book store, we're talking about writers and their characters and how the viewpoint of the writer comes through in their character.
Sure.
However, simply because a character espouses a particular view doesn't necessarily mean that that's how the writer actually feels.
True.
You know, because if it did, then I guess from books that he's written, Robert Ludlum is a Nazi. You know, I'm guessing that David Morrell, is actually very anti-Japanese.
And it's
and of course, those things.
To realize that
those things aren't true. You know, a writer may write a character who's anti-Semitic, which the writer's feelings on Jewish. The writer might actually be Jewish, but he needs for his character to be anti-Semitic, so he makes him that way. It doesn't mean that that's how the writer actually feels. And sometimes I feel like a rabid section of the fan base needs to remember to distinguish between writer and character. The characters are fictitious. They have the attitudes that they've been given to have to serve the story. They have not been given those attitudes because the writer...
Yeah, definitely, and that's important to note. One of the big things that folks those who contest the idea of having that are calling out sexist tropes in video games, they're saying, hey, look, okay, great, you know, Mylena versus Scorpion, fine, but number one, you know, why is she showing more skin than why is a woman showing more skin than the man when they're both supposed to be battling? I guess the short answer to that is, well, look at some of the big burly man characters, and they are, but there are far fewer of them, and so then that, you're like, well, how can that not be a valid argument? Because yes, there are far fewer of the beefcake. You know, the ratio of cheesecake to beefcake is skewed.
Yeah. And I wouldn't argue that point. If someone wanted to redesign Princess Katana's costume so she was not bare-legged, you know, wearing high-heeled boots,
I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, all right, well, so put the, you know, have the dudes be, you know, bare-chested, and then let's call it even. Because, you know, I don't want to give up any skin. I want to see. Well, is that what? Can we come over here, Kelsey? Come on. Kelsey is for bare chests.
So
your favorite actor who you want to see more bare chest?
Where should I start?
But she's into it. Come over here. Come on the show. She's even got her supernatural styled jacket. It fits right in. She's a hunter, Miss Kelsey.
All right. So anyway, back on topic here. We're being reviewed. Somebody is reviewing our podcast.
They've already turned it off by now. Gio's still listening. Black dude has long since said, fuck this.
Man, listen to this guy's foul mouth. I'll tell you what.
Well, that's Comics Online podcast.
Profanity.
Definitely.
Kevin.
Profanity heavy.
Profanity is the first refuge of the unimaginative.
And me. Yeah. Anyway, so and then you have things where, okay, so I when it comes to like main characters, like player characters, I'm like, whatever, just, you know, make the dudes more beefcakey if you feel like you're missing out on something, or if there's some disparity there. Because don't take away the skin, because we're sexual beings, and we want to see that. I do.
Well,
but
here, let me ask this question and give this some serious thought before you answer it. Okay, so we're talking Mortal Kombat.
Hell yeah.
I'm all in favor. Okay, I'm all in favor of, seeing pretty women and provocatively dressed, but there's a place for that. In my fighting game, what is the purpose of provocative costuming?
Distraction.
Yeah, I'm not distracted. I'm playing Scorpion, I'm playing Sub-Zero, I'm playing Liu Kang, I'm playing Kung Lao, Raiden, whomever. I'm playing Katana, I'm playing Sonya Blade, I'm playing Melina. The purpose of skimpy costumes is what precisely? Let's celebrate these characters as champion fighters. If we were playing, bikini, beach ball or what have you, that would be different. Yes, I would expect women in bikinis. What was it? Dead on Arrival, DOA,
which
the beach volleyball,
which didn't even start. It's my understanding that didn't even start out as wasn't the beach volleyball like a secondary game in whatever the game that spawned that, and then it's.
I got no audio.
Hello.
There we go.
That's weird. Hi. I'm gonna put it right up to my mouth.
He wasn't saying anything important anyway.
Didn't matter.
And honestly, the history on that one, I don't know. I became aware of the volleyball game.
It started with the men?
On a commercial.
Kelsey says it started with the men and turned into the women. Yeah,
so there you have it. But It's like my compromise to people who say that there's this great over-sexualization. Yeah, there probably is. And you know what? If you took these characters and put them in practical fighting attire, if Katana's outfit were more like Scorpion's, no big deal. I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I wouldn't care either. But at the same time, if you're going to go and start a character and then desexualize that same exact character, I'm like, well, if it's a story game and there's some story arc that has to do with it, then okay, whatever. But if it's just like, all right, here's this character. Oh, people didn't like it. I didn't like her in revealing costume, or didn't like him with his chest bared. Let's clothe him instead.
Well, okay,
let's
now
put the fig leaf over David's junk.
Here's the thing, and I'm okay with that.
We're almost out of battery. What's the battery looking like? Red and blinky.
Red and blinky. All right, so really quickly, Take a character like Bucky, Lamar Hoskins. This is 1980s Captain America as written by Mark Grunwald. The new Captain America, John Walker, and his partner, Lamar Hoskins, Bucky, Captain America and Bucky. Mark Grunwald did not know that the term buck was a racially offensive slur against black people.
I think I learned that from Marvel Comics.
Well, as soon as he found out about this, a fan had written in a letter, and informed him of this. Mark Grunwald gave that fan an apology and changed the character's name. Gave him a new name, gave him a new outfit, and stopped using what he didn't know to be an offensive slur. So changing a character midstream because, the fans didn't like it, they reacted poorly to it.
You're a better man than I am.
There's nothing wrong with it's like, we made a mistake. We applied something and it was wrong. Let's change it. It's got to be okay to make changes.
Right.
It's got to be okay to, one, admit you made a mistake for whatever reason, and then two, fix the mistake you made. I'm not interested in calling you out, calling you names, or blaming your philosophies. You admit you made a mistake and fix it, and then we're done here. Moving on.
All right, so Washington Redskins, we're going to get rid of that name, and it's just going to continue being an awesome team.
I would like Dan Snyder to let go of that team, and I would like the Washington Redskins currently to move into the state of Virginia, where they will be renamed the Virginia Presidents, and they will be owned by someone who loves the football team for a football team. There are several candidates in my mind, but if necessary, I will go to necromantic rituals and resurrect Jack Kent Cook. Put him back in the owner's box. I'd be happy with that.
I have no idea who that is, but I'm for it.
Oh, stop talking right now.
I'm not from here. I'm not from around here.
It doesn't matter.
All right. We got to cut out before the camera dies.
Okay, so do we need to tell these people who we are and what they've been listening to? And
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But we're going to come back to this. Like I said, we're going to have Duke Nukem. We're going to have some stuff from some game developers and from some game journalists coming up soon. Not exactly sure how soon, but we're going to do it up right.
And one of these future podcasts, we're going to talk about comic topics. We're going to stay on topic, and we're going to follow this point all the way through.
And we're going to.
I will use a shock prod.
We're going to have the audio only podcast with Cullen Bunn coming up soon as well.
All right.
We got to work that out between you and me.
Yes, indeed.
And Cullen. So, did you press that button? Don't press that button, Mark.
Waiting on you guys.
All right.
Okay.
So, for Mark and Kelsey and Amanda and Troy David Phillips and for
Kevin Goswan and for everything geek pop culture,
I'm Kevin Goswan, and this is Comics Online.
And we're sorry.
From leaping tall buildings to going off like gamma bombs. Switch your internet browser to ComicsOnline.com.